Welcome. It's 6 p.m. and welcome to the business meeting for the School District of Indian River County School Board. It is Monday, January 24th, 2022, and we are meeting in the Joanne Idolette Jr. Teacher Education Center. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m., and I'd like everyone to please stand and recognize for the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Sebastian River High School's Navy Junior ROTC under the direction of Lieutenant Commander LCDR James Landis, USN retired, and Master Sergeant MSGT Michael Hussey, USMC retired. Gentlemen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. Others. Ready. Cut. Post. Colors. March. Post. Colors. And salute. Ready. Two. Post. March. Forward. March. Up. 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 Right. Up. 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 Others. Forward. Thank you, gentlemen. And women. Gentlemen and women, thank you.
Your turn.
Thank you. That helps. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, we are to the adoption of the orders of the day. Are there any items that board members wish to move from consent to action? Seeing none, then I'd like to call for a motion to accept the orders of the day.
So moved.
Okay. I'm sorry, who was the second? Dr. Schiff?
Second.
Oh, Mr. Barefoot. Thank you. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's 5-0 vote. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Moore for our presentations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a couple of presentations, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Maddox to present those this evening.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm going to block Ms. Shattuck over here. Thank you for being here with us tonight at this meeting. We have a few presentations for you tonight. One of them I'm very excited about. Actually, I'm excited about all three of them. Captain Meow, I saw you looking at me. I'm excited about yours too. But we have our Stars of the Year finalist video first, and that is highlighting our 5 Teacher of the Year and 5 Employee of the Year finalists. We picked them up on December 16th at their schools. We surprised them for being one of the finalists, and we had a very special lunch in their honor. And our gala was rescheduled to January 27th, our Stars of the Year gala. It will be at Sebastian River High School from 6 to, we try to keep it around 7, maybe shortly after. The theme is Peace, Love, and SDIRC, and it is a 70s gala. So if you choose to attend, you're more than welcome to. We encourage you to dress in theme. Bring your disco fever with you. So now, Brooks, would you please play our finalist video?
I'm Kristen Maddox, your Public Information Officer, and today is one of our favorite days of the entire year. Join us as we pick up our 10 Stars of the Year finalists from each of their campuses. We don't have to go far for the first stop. It's right here.
You have been selected as our district representative as one of 5 finalists. Surprise, Kyle! So you interviewed to be one of the finalists for the School District of Indian River County Employee of the Year, and you have been selected as one of those 5 finalists, so congratulations. So you interviewed to be a teacher finalist of the year. Of over 1,150 teachers, you are one of 5 finalists for the School District of Indian River County. Congratulations. You have been selected as one of the 5 finalists, so congratulations. You are one of 5 finalists as District Employee of the Year. You were identified by your school as Teacher of the Year. You went and you interviewed for the district, and now you have been identified as one of 5 finalists for the entire district of Indian River County. Congratulations, sir. Of all the teachers, 1,150 teachers, this is one of the 5 finalists for Teacher of the Year. Miss Spivey, come on up here, please. We're going to celebrate your accomplishment of being one of the 5 finalists for the School District of Indian River County for Teacher of the Year. is your Employee of the Year, which is Mr. Banks right over here. Come on, Mr. Banks, come on up here. Jason, congratulations. This is for you. Hey, Mr. Conway, how are you? Pretty good. So I know you're dealing with a tough time, and we are all praying for you and your father. Make sure he gets well a little bit better. But when he wakes up and goes through surgery, can you please tell him you've been identified as one of the 5 finalists for the School District of Indian River County as Teacher of the Year. So we're...
Congratulations to our finalists. Again, on the 27th, we will be announcing our District Employee of the Year and our District Teacher of the Year, and they will be going to compete at the state level. This week, our teachers who were our finalists have been recording lesson plans in their rooms with their classrooms to submit for the final review of our committee to choose our Teacher of the Year. So again, that was wonderful. It's one of our favorite times of the year. Dr. Moore's on campus so much, I don't think some of them knew that we were there to even surprise them because they just expect to see him. But it was a wonderful time. For our next two, no performances tonight, our next 2 check presentations, we have our Casual for a Cause December cause, and that's the Salvation Army. Captain, if you'd like to come up here, please. If you're not familiar with Casual for a Cause, it's a day during the month. We have a predetermined organizations that we have for January through December, and it's a day that our students, teachers, staff members, in exchange for a donation, can dress casually, and the donations, they all go to the organization of our choice. And this year we've changed our calendar around a lot, and we've joined with a lot of local organizations to support those organizations. And the Salvation Army, you guys have been on our calendar for quite a few years now. The School District of Indian River County raised $1,957.35. And Storm Grove Middle School, they raised the most money with $431.85. Would you like to say anything?
I would. I just want to say a sincere and heartfelt thank you to you all from the school district and to all of the teachers who and local staff at the schools that helps make this happen, and going above and beyond, and teaching kids or demonstrating values, for the kids, like how to give back to your community. We're especially proud this year of the smaller schools that really stepped up and are making an outsized impact in our community by the way they're just teaching these kids values like that. So we're grateful for the support of the district and for all the schools that participated this year. God bless you guys.
Just stick around for a minute. We're going to do one picture at the end. So one more presentation. This is for the Daisy Hope Center. Do we have a representative from Daisy Hope here today? Perfect. Hello. So we chose Daisy Hope this year. This was their first year on the Casual for a Cause calendar, and we're looking forward to several more years. Again, that was for January, and in exchange for a donation, students and staff, they got to wear casual clothes. The total that the School District of Indian River County raised was $3,066.22. And again, Storm Grove raised the most money with $571.30. And Mrs. Milliman has your fake check, but we have real ones. Those aren't the real ones, don't worry. Would you like to say a few words?
I just want to thank everyone in the school district for thinking of us and having us on our calendar. We're an after-school tutoring program. It's in Wabasso off of 510. We tutor students ages 5 to 18 after school. So just a big thank you from our staff to everyone in the district.
And before we take a picture, I was just reminded to mention that we also had red kettles in each one of our schools this year, so thank you if you were on any of those campuses and you donated. An additional $2,200.82 was raised in the red kettles.
And the winner this year was the small and mighty Fellsmere Elementary.
That's right. Congratulations, Fellsmere. Okay, can we get a picture, please? I'll get 2 individual ones and then a group shot. Mr. Brooks over here will help us out. If I can get this out of your way. Sorry. Okay. Board members, yes, if you would just stand, we'll do the group photo first.
Yeah. Just shoot him out the picture there.
Take turns. Congratulations. Okay.
And that concludes our presentations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to citizen input, I'd just like to say, recognize Alicia Rees and Peggy Poisel for filling in, and we have Nancy Esplin back. She is our board secretary, and she has been out, and we are so thankful that she has returned. So Nancy, thank you for being back here. We appreciate that. All right, at this time, it is time for citizen input. These are the guidelines for citizen input according to the School Board Policy 0169.1. Each statement made by the member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Persons will be recognized in order in which the requests were received. The time shall start when the speaker is at the podium, and the school board attorney will be the official timekeeper. You will hear a beep at the end of your 3 minutes. Persons may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of the business meeting during citizen input, as indicated on the order of the business, and for up to 3 minutes to each action item during the action agenda and each board member discussion item, as indicated on the order of business. Persons may only speak once about any given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer. Only the individual submitting a speaker's form is allowed to address the board, and time may not be yielded to other speakers. During the meeting, please refrain from clapping or outbursts of any sort so that we can proceed with dignity and with decorum, and by not infringing on any individual's First Amendment rights. I need to remind everyone to direct all comments to the chair, not to the individual board members or to the superintendent. Board members may or may not address any citizen input statements at the end of all citizen input comments. As board members listen to citizens without interruption, citizens are asked to give board members the same respect. As per Florida Statute 1001.372, subsections 3, the presiding officer of any district school board may order the removal from a public meeting held by the district school board of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning, and continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. At this time, we'll call the first person and the person on the deck. So John Carapi is first and Karen Jordan is second. Mr. Carapi, the microphone is yours.
Happy New Year, 2022, a new year, right? Back in April, I came to the first meeting I came to, and Dr. Mark McCain spoke about mental health. And he talked about the children and their suffering from mental health. And I watched the workshops again, and I'm starting to hear mental health coming up all of a sudden. And I'm thinking, wow, didn't the people in this room for the last 2 years tell you that you were going to have a mental health problem, and you were going to have children who were going to have post-traumatic stress disorder and COVID stress disorder? Well, now we're here. And so we told you, you didn't listen. Nobody wanted to listen to the parents that came into this room. tell you about what was happening. Now we want to focus on mental health. We want to bring mental health consultants in all of a sudden. Well, I'm telling you right now that that's not the case right now. What we're going to do is we're going to take those seats back that are available the upcoming election. We're going to take our power back, and we're going to take that, and we're not going to have this happen anymore, because we're the ones in this community that's going to have to clean up the mess that was caused by the mask mandates and the quarantining and et cetera, et cetera. Dr. Moore, I'm speaking. Do you want to look at me or no? Oh, okay, appreciate it. So anyway, so obviously, again, I've proven my point that nobody wants to listen to what we have to say here. But this time you're going to listen, because we're going to make sure that you listen, because we're going to vote out the folks that didn't want to look out for the kids' mental health. I get emails and text messages ever since I got fired from my job for speaking out about mental health, that they send us messages and tell us that, my kid wants to wear a mask now because, she wants to hide her face because she doesn't feel good about herself anymore, and that I'd rather wear the mask. They're not even wearing it for COVID. Dr. Mark said he wasn't treating people for COVID. He was treating people for mental disorders, depression, attempted suicides, and he came in here and spoke about that. I came in here and spoke about that. I let you know that that was going to happen, but nobody wants to seem to listen. I don't understand why. But we, the people of this community, are going to take our power back, and those seats that are available, they're going to come back into the right frame of mind. They're going to come back into the people's power, and you're going to listen to them. And the people that are going to take those seats are going to listen to the folks of this community. And Dr. Moore, you just sit there and keep playing with your phone all you want. If you don't want to listen to what we have to say, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not paying attention. So we talked about this, and your seat is next too. Because that's going to happen next. That we're going to take the power back, and then you're going to go too, because this isn't going to happen anymore. We can't have this. Our mental health of our children are being affected, and nobody seems to care. Nobody wants to worry about it. They want to be after the fact. We want to be reactive instead of proactive. It's time to be proactive and make sure this never happens again, because we're going to have to clean this up. The people in this room are going to have to clean up the fallout, and that's what's going to happen. And we're going to have to take the responsibility, because we're taking our power back. We're doing it because we are free and sovereign beings, and being free is our birthright. And that's all we're going to do. And you guys, you want to be a part of that? That's fine. We want you to be a part of it. We want you to be a part of that, taking care of our children's mental health, because it's a real serious problem, and a lot of people are really upset about it. All right? Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Crappie. Okay, we have Karen Jordan next, and Maureen, is it Slosser? Slosser will be on deck. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Jordan. I live in Sebastian. It's hard to beat that discussion that just came, so I won't even try. But what I'd like to see Indian River County do is to go back to some basics. I think I'm asking too much to go back to bring God into our church, into our schools. So, okay, if I can't do that, what I'd like to do is to go back to 1786 when Dr. Benjamin Rush said the following three things. And he said a lot more than that. Teach our children to love and serve God. Teach our children to love and serve their country. And three, teach our children, our students, to love and serve their families. Those are some pretty basics. And if that's still too far back for you in terms of basics, how about just reading, writing, and arithmetic? Basics. And I even thought about going back to Adam and Eve, but I don't think anyone would appreciate all of us being sinless and running around naked with our leaves on us. So, I'm a Christian, I'm a sinner, and I want you to know that going back to reading and writing and arithmetic is something that is inherent to us. We need it. We have to have it. As was mentioned by the gentleman before me, communications, I came to 3 school board meetings last year, did not talk at any of them, but I, just like now, look at all the rules we have to follow. If I could tell you what those rules were, I would, but I don't know what they are. I guess I could look them up, but I have only 3 minutes to talk. There's not enough communication. I'd like to see the 7 of us, yes, meet just one-on-one with us. Maybe that's been done, but not to my knowledge. Listen to the board. We want to listen to you because all of our lives are busy. Most of us don't work well. Us that are retired, I can be here, that's okay. but for the people that work, they need me to help bring y'all to understand that. Now, my son was in Lake County and Volusia County when he was going through his 6th and 7th and 8th grade periods. So I'm not directly involved, but yet I am, because when I can't walk and I'm on a cane, those are the young people that will be caring for me and changing my diaper. So please, listen to us. I know the animosity between the two is there, but let's get a mediator if we have to. I was told last year in one of those meetings that some school boards don't make any money, that they do it on a volunteer basis. I'd like to see us vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, y'all.
All right, appreciate it very much. Maureen Slosser and Susan Baldwin is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Schlosser, and I'm a registered voter here in Indian River County. I'm also a former classroom educator and school librarian, and I'm also an active member of the American Association of School Librarians. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about First Amendment rights and library policies. I'm here to address a problem and offer a solution. The problem is censorship. Award-winning, professionally vetted books were removed from the shelves of our school libraries without due process and in violation of our students' civil rights under the First Amendment. The decision to deny these books was based on an excerpt read from a YouTube show and a list that is circulating the country. Book removal based on this criteria is censorship and violates federal law. It opens a school district up to the possibility of litigation that will waste substantial taxpayer money only to result in having the books put back on the shelves. According to the Supreme Court decision in Island Trees versus Pico, materials may not be removed from the libraries just for the ideas contained in them. The court viewed school libraries as places for voluntary inquiry and specifically ruled that local school boards are limited by the First Amendment when exercising their discretion to remove books from school libraries. The solution? Library policies need to be implemented to show compliance with the First Amendment. The American Library Association has a toolkit to help craft a selection policy and a reconsideration policy for books. A book selection policy helps school librarians consider materials that support the curriculum and the entire learning community. A reconsideration policy outlines the process for handling formal complaints about a book. The process begins with a conversation with the school librarian, and in most cases, after learning how and why a book was purchased for the library collection, the issue is resolved. To place a formal complaint, a form is submitted, and a reconsideration group meets to read the entire book, review the form, and make a decision. During this process, the book stays in circulation to comply with the First Amendment. Numerous schools have sadly wasted substantial taxpayer money in litigation by not having these policies in place. Let's not make the same mistake. Let's get these professionally vetted books back on the shelves and put policies in place as other districts have done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Susan Baldwin and Jennifer Pippin is on deck.
Hello and good evening. I've been attending school board meetings pretty regularly since the spring of 2020. We don't have children in the school system, but we are taxpayers. As a senior citizen and retiree, I honestly thought I was done having to speak to school boards. My kids are in their 30s. However, apparently the good Lord had other plans for me, so I'll be here supporting parents as long as I must. And I too am speaking tonight on the library books with explicit sexual content and CRT. I understand that the books in question have been removed from the shelves for the time being, and that's wonderful. Thank you. Okay? Is the vetting process going on? After all, this has been going on since October 27th, and we haven't forgotten about it, nor will we. Okay. I don't believe there is a valid argument for some of the excerpts that I read that were sent to me have any value they really can be used as arguments for keeping the books. Bottom line is exposing young people to, especially to sexually explicit content, negatively affects their young, undeveloped minds. This can lead to adults in broken marriages. I mean, ask the spouse who's, where the other spouse got addicted to pornography, and really can affect society as a whole. You know, and personally, I don't care for how many awards a book gets, but if it contains this kind of material, it doesn't belong in the schools. And you folks have taken the first step, and I hope you continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Pippin, Michael C. Marsh is on deck.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin, and I'm the chairman for Moms for Liberty, Indian River, Florida, and one of the co-founders for We the People, Indian River County. Our members believe parents should have a seat at the table when it comes to school security and protecting the children. When safety was discussed at the last school board meeting, parents agree with a partnership with the sheriff's office. Suggestions from our members include combining on-campus school resource deputies with armed, retired military, or citizens with a concealed license that satisfies the stringent requirements of the sheriff's office in Florida law. Another concern for our parents are the district policies and procedures concerning medical treatment for children. Some districts around our state are working to find the loopholes in the parental rights law. We contend that our children's medical information should remain private, including the Baker Act records. No one at school has the right to our children's private medical information unless we, the parents, permit it. This is covered under HIPAA. Please do not continue to break the law if you're going to change policy. Furthermore, any issue that arises at school affecting the mental well-being of our children must not be hidden from parents. It's the parents' right to direct the upbringing, education, medical care for their children. No secret meetings or undisclosed information should ever be kept from parents by law. We are also asking for adequate discipline and accountability for student behavior. Application of these procedures should be the same for all races across the district. It is unacceptable that the resource officers are punched in the face from time to time. Children are having sexual relations in cars and just told to not get pregnant. Fights happen daily with no accountability to many of these students. Citizens have been instructed by this board publicly reading the vulgar passages from the books that were in the libraries would not be appropriate. Yet you had these books made available to our children's libraries. If these books do go back on the shelves, we are in partnership with the sheriff's office to file a formal complaint. Thanks to the district's attempts to flood us with punitive procedures in order to object to the harmful, obscene material you provide to our minor children, we have plenty of documentation to provide to law enforcement. Legal repercussions will be sought if you knowingly put pornography in the hands of minors. It is a third-degree felony here in the state of Florida. Parents should be able to direct the moral upbringing of their students without being undermined at school. How and when to discuss sexuality, gender identity is the sole right and responsibility of the parent. Thank you, and hopefully this year, parents will have a seat at the table to partner with the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael C. Marsh and Don Wilkerson is on deck.
This is just the first one, right, Madam Chair? This is not the consent ones, right?
This
The
is
regular citizen input. Okay.
regular
Just wanted
citizen
to make
input.
sure I'm all about policy. Good evening, all. I hear the word partnerships keep getting echoed out, so I wanted to come tonight and report to you. I am Michael C. Marsh, president and founder of Team Success Enterprises, as well as your alternate on the MPO board. I want to talk to you tonight about these partnerships. In 2021, we had some very strong partnerships with the school district of Indian River County. Team Success has an event known as the Caring Christmas Cause. On Christmas Day, we go throughout, not just Indian River County. This year, we were able to go to St. Lucie as well as Martin County. But I want to talk to you about some of the great individuals that you guys have within your school district. When I reached out to find out the families that were most needed for these blessings, not one, not two, but 6 schools reached back out and said, here's a family, we'll have them get in contact with you. That means a lot. When those principals, staff members, coaches reach out and say, we know those kids that are in need. On Christmas Day, I would like to recognize one of your principals, Principal Bagley from Pelican Island. Not only did she make sure that a family was going to be taken care of on Christmas Day, but she got out of her bed to make sure that she personally delivered these gift cards on Christmas Day. Those are your principals, your staff, your coaches that partner with Team Success, and that means a lot. Now we will change over to some hats, because we wear many, and tonight we're going to wear a lot of them. But before we get to that, we have 2 other great events that we're going to be partnering with our school district of Indian River County. In February, on Valentine's Day, we have a tasty treat to transportation, where we will partner with our friends, Miss Idolette in Transportation, and make sure that over 150 bus drivers, I didn't know you guys had so many, and bus aides before I committed to it. We have over 150 of them. But anyways, we're going to feed them all. And then in March 25th, we have our Community Resource Fair over at Unite Against Poverty. We want to make sure that these nonprofits are talking to one another, because we know that we have some great ones, and we know here at the school district, you guys partner with many of them. So we've invited our friends at the school district of Indian River County. I will get that flyer out to all the board members, as well as the superintendent. We look forward for you guys having a table. We're going to have 50 or more nonprofits. We're going to have local businesses. And at the end of this event, all the money raised, we will be writing a check to Unite Against Poverty for GED classes, driver's license, IDs, birth certificates. Those items that the indigent out there are really in need of. So this is very important. And last but not least, I want to recognize, we will not call individually, because we're all about policy. Follow the Florida State statute. I've heard that before. Thank you to those school board members that constantly and consistently donate, whether that's financially or your time. Whether that's, putting cranberry and souffle cups on Thanksgiving, cutting turkeys, making sure Christmas presents are wrapped, or making your generous gift to Team Success. Stronger together. Good night. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Don Wilkerson is our last speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight as a concerned parent and a citizen of Indian River County. I have 2 school-age children at home. My husband and I have decided not to allow our kids to attend public school for a multitude of reasons. We are concerned about what is being taught in the classrooms. We teach our children to treat others the way that they would like to be treated, and to love their neighbors as themselves, and also to be kind and respectful to everyone they come in contact with. For these reasons, I do not believe that CRT teaches these important character traits, and that's why I strongly agree with it. Unfortunately, I have seen and heard that CRT is sprinkled in throughout the classroom, cleverly disguised using various other nicknames. I would like to ask this board to vote no on the Savas Advanced Elective Curriculum because it has CRT and it is banned in Florida per Governor DeSantis. Our children will not benefit from this curriculum. On another subject, it's alarming and also infuriating to hear that over 149 books have been submitted for review for containing pornography and CRT. What are those books doing in our schools? I'm just wondering if you could please tell us the criteria and the process for which a book is allowed entry into school libraries. I have also heard from concerned parents about the constant fights and the bullying, especially at Vero Beach High School and Oslo Middle School. As parents, we want to know that safety is a priority in our schools. And unfortunately, a lot of parents are losing faith that their children are truly safe in schools. These are only a few, but some major reasons that my children are not in public school right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkerson. Is there anything you want to address? Okay. Board members, you good? Very good. Yes. Well, I'll mention something. You want to mention something? Go ahead.
I thought there was more.
No, that was our last
Sorry,
speaker.
I thought there were more citizen input.
Later.
Comments later. I just wanted to mention one thing, that, something that was mentioned about the library books being a violation of the First Amendment rights, and that books were being removed from libraries in an effort to violate the First Amendment right. That is not what is happening here in the school district of Indian River County. What is happening, however, is a full review of the statutory requirements that we are obligated to follow. As elected officials, we are responsible, and we were elected to ensure that this district is following any of the statutory requirements that falls within the purview of the school district and under the responsibilities of the school superintendent, Dr. Moore. What we are doing is we have charged the superintendent with a full review of that process so that he can ensure what that vetting process will look like moving forward, so that these books do not end up on the shelves, as they are, many of them, not all of them, many of them do contain pornographic information, graphic details, things that are inappropriate for minor children, things that should not be in our public school system. We are not a public library system. We are a public school system who happens to have libraries within them. That's very, very different. So just to bring this to a close, there must be a process in place to ensure that anyone can object to instructional materials, including library books. That is what we are doing. When those objections come in, the superintendent has, I am told, a team of people looking into what those objections are and how those books are going to be either removed or not removed, brought back to the board for a vote. We're still waiting to hear what that final process is going to look like. And also, just to follow up with that same, I don't know where she is. There she is. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. Just to give you some information in case you missed some other meetings, we have Florida Statute 84700 that identifies some definitions of some of those things that are prohibited, as well as 847.012, 1006.40, 1006.28, and 1006.34 are just 3 of the statutes of which speak specifically to the processes that are responsible for instructional materials, and that includes library books.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosario. Good? Okay. All right, at this time is approval for consent agenda items. I'm going to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Barefoot? Second? Dr. Schiff? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Vote carries 5-0. Okay, so there have been no items removed from consent to action. And at this time, we're going to hold our public hearing and adoption of volume 22, number 1, and special update. Okay. Which part do I need to read? All right, let's see. This item deals with the adoption of new and revised school board policies. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Do you have it?
No.
Not this time.
Not at this time. The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there any individual or any individual representing an organization or on his or her own personal or public interest who wishes to speak?
All right.
Seeing none? All right, and then I'd like to announce that the adoption of new and revised school board policies has been conducted pursuant to notice, and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. Okay, I'd like to call for a motion.
So move.
Dr. Jones,
I'll second.
Ms. Rosario. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Vote carries 5-0. All right, the next public hearing. Public hearing and adoption of revised policy 169.1. This item deals with adoption of revised school board policy. Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
No.
No. The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there an individual representing an organization or on his own personal or public interest to which wishes to speak? Okay, hearing none, I conclude that the adoption of the revised school board policy has been conducted pursuant to notice and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time. I call for a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Barefoot, second.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Jones, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. Item C, updated, public hearing for the adoption of math instructional materials. I believe we have people that wish to speak to this item. Okay. All right. So, at this point, we'd like to receive any public comments, and I believe we have a couple. All right. And the first one is Mr. Marsh.
That was 13C, correct, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I'm not misspeaking here.
Yeah, because you had down 13A and B, but you didn't speak up, so
Oh, I didn't know how we were, I thought you called me, because I put my name on the thing.
I'm sorry. Would you like to speak to
Yes,
the public
please.
hearings that I brought up?
Yes, ma'am, for A,
Okay.
B, that's why I put on.
All right, hold on one second. So we just had public hearings and I closed them. No one spoke, but he had put in that he requested to speak to 13A,
A and B.
A and B. Yes.
Separately or together?
Hmm?
Separately or together?
Do you want to speak to them together?
Do I get 6 minutes?
Oh, he gets 3 minutes. So you want 9 minutes, is that what you're saying?
So per the policy, I'm able to speak 3 minutes for each item on
Understood.
this.
That's what I'm saying.
So we can do it all together, 9, 12 minutes, whatever is easier for the board. But I think we have other people I want to speak. I'm good with 3 minutes on A and come back.
Do you want me to reopen the public hearing? Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Marsh, I'm sorry. I should have made that more clear. When I open the public hearing, that's the time that
Okay.
you should speak. So I'm going to reopen it for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay? So I'm going to go back to 13A, public hearing and adoption of the new and revised school board policy. And we do have a speaker, so I'm reopening that.
Don't you have to vote for us to reopen it?
Yes, sorry. No, we don't have to have a vote to reopen it, do we? No. No? No. No. I can just reopen it. So at this time, I'm reopening the public hearing. Hold on one second, sorry. We
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
make sure we're doing everything legally.
Well, that's why I wrote it down.
It's public hearing A. I opened it up. I didn't realize that was the A that he wanted to speak to. And when I asked if there were any speakers, he didn't come forward, but he wrote his name down on the paper.
Okay. So
That's why I asked the last time I was up here, is this
Right.
just for this, or are we doing?
Right.
We're talking about voting to reopen the hearing or voting again on the measure that you already voted on?
So do we have to vote to reopen hearing?
Can we convene so I can check? I've never.
Sure, we're going to take 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go sit down now?
Yeah, it's, oh, sorry, 6:49. Okay, sorry, we've never had this before. When someone asks to speak at an item, if it's not a public hearing, it just normally comes up. But since these were public hearings, then we call for who would like to speak during the public hearing. But you actually asked to speak to the item, which comes before the public hearing. So my bad, I apologize that I didn't say that.
No problem, Madam Chair.
So because we've already voted on, now I have to ask the board to open that back up.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would recommend asking for a motion and second and vote to reopen the public hearings on items 13A and B.
Okay. Yeah. So let me explain to the board members. Thank you. Board members, here's where Robert's Rules gets fun. So because this was a public hearing, during public hearings, anyone that wants to speak to the public hearing item needs to speak during the public hearing, but if they want to speak to it as the action item, they can speak before the action item. Mr. Marsh did fill out the forms and give them to us ahead of time. So I thought that's when he was going to speak, but he didn't, so he actually had the right to speak before the item. So now I technically need to ask if you are willing to open the public hearing back up. So I need a motion.
I'm sorry, just a question.
Mhm.
If we open the public hearing back up, but we've already voted on it, do we have to somehow rescind that vote or undo that vote?
Thank
Or
you.
just opening the public hearing, just do that?
Thank you, Chair.
Please, we have an attorney. She's going to advise us. Thank you all.
What I would recommend is that at that time, the chair ask the board members if anybody wishes to reopen the vote because they want to change their vote. If not, I think we can just let the vote stand.
Okay, so, but we can hear from the person that would like to speak.
Yes, if you reopen the public hearing.
So I don't need to ask for the revote then to open it.
I would ask for a vote to reopen the public hearing,
Okay,
yes.
I'm going to ask for a vote then to reopen the public hearing.
So move.
Okay,
Second.
okay. So now we've got to document that as the second time. So the first, I'm sorry, the first was who, Dr. Jones?
Dr. Jones, yes.
Jones, and the second was?
Dr. Schiff.
Dr. Schiff. Okay. Second go-round.
No, not yet.
Okay. And all those, I can ask for the motion, for the vote then, and then have him speak. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
All right, so 4-0, 4-1, sorry. Okay. And now I can have Mr. Marsh speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here tonight as the founder of Mike for Liberty, as well as the founder of the Really, Really We the People. And I'm here to talk about public records, which is a buzzword I heard in the workshop today. So let's talk all about it. Let's actually address the elephant in the room.
Mr.
Yes.
Marsh, 1 second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
agree with
Stop
that.
his clock.
I like my time.
The policy is on public records, I think.
Okay. Yeah. The first policy, I just want to make sure that we're with the right policy because the board members brought up that we need to make sure that we're speaking to the correct policy.
13.
So this is on public hearing and adoption of volume 22, number 1, which is public records, correct?
Yes.
No,
Hold on.
13A says public participation at board meetings.
Okay. So 15A is public
I'm sorry, unless
participation.
I'm reading the wrong thing.
So I'm only given the title here.
What's linked is public participation at board meetings.
And it's on our agenda as public hearing and adoption of volume 22, number 1, and special update.
Right, that's
Not public records.
That's what it says.
What I print out on board docs, draft volume 22, number 1, special update, 8310 public records. It's right here from board docs, School District of Indian River County.
That's correct.
Would you like to see it?
Yes.
That's the point. That's what it's on.
Okay, that's what it's on.
So can I?
He's correct.
It's not here. It's not what's
Okay.
on.
The superintendent is telling us that's what it's on.
That's the volume that's attached. That is the volume.
Yes, that's the volume that's attached. Okay, Mr. Marsh, I'm sorry. We're going to restart your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are we starting back at 3 or? Because it's going, where are we starting from? No? All right, that's fine. We can make this quick. We'll address the elephant in the room, and we're not talking about our good Republicans. Public records. So if you dive into public records, 8310, you have access to public records, and it states such: any individual may inspect and request copies of public records of the district during the regular business hours of the office in which such records are maintained. The district may not require a request for public records to be in writing, nor may the person requesting the information be required to disclose name, address, or phone number unless specifically required to do so by law. Well, we have a problem here because in the workshop, that's what we want to do. We're looking at a board member brought up through the chair implementing a new public record system that asks for these things. Well, we want to be in compliance with the law. You cannot ask those things because that would be a direct violation of public record. Let's go further. A custodian of public records and or his or her designee must promptly acknowledge requests to inspect or copy records promptly and respond to such requests in good faith. There's not a problem in communications. There's a problem with the custodian of some of these public records. I've asked for a public record almost 2 months ago. Through the chair, it's been almost 2 months, and I have not got my public records request by the custodian. The custodian is not Sarah Milliman nor Kristen Maddox. It's a board member. The record that was turned over to me is not what I've requested. I do not want to put the school district on a 5-day notice, but if this is the only way that I can obtain these public records, then we will do so. We spoke about this to numerous people at this point. I'm asking, what are we going to do? We have the school board attorney here tonight. We want to be in compliance of public record. It's very simple. The request states it will take not even 15 minutes to fulfill. It went through communications. Communications wrote back to the custodian, where's my record? That's my question. I leave here tonight, and we will send this to the entire board, superintendent, madam attorney. I want the record. Do I have to get an attorney to ask for the record? This is very simple. Why are we wasting all this time? We're so concerned to be in compliance in public record. I mean, after all, we want to adopt a whole new public record system. I think public records is amazing. Sarah Milliman, muy bueno. But some custodians of public record, no bueno. So I leave you tonight asking, when do I get my Facebook Messenger request that has been 2 months ago on one of these board members? How much longer? Is it because that board member interacts with other political organizations? Stay tuned, because we're going to find out together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marsh.
You're
Do we need
welcome.
to re-vote on the,
Let's not laugh, Ms. Rosario. It's about you.
I'm sorry, no, please don't speak to board members individually.
She laughed at me.
That's not you.
Hey, you shut up. You spoke to more like people.
All right, come on.
Really?
Go to hell.
Could we please stop? Please, thank you.
No problem, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Are we on B now?
Hold on one second.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. My recommendation would be if any board member, if you want to ask if any board member wishes to ask for reconsideration of the vote because they want to change their vote. If not, I think we can just allow the vote to stand.
Okay, is there any board member that wishes to change their mind on the original vote?
No.
Okay, so we're fine on the original vote. Okay, we are now to 13B. I believe we have a guest speaker on that. Mr. Marsh?
Hello,
would you like
Madam
to speak
Chair.
to that?
Yes,
It is
ma'am.
public participation at meetings.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct. And I believe required instruction.
I'm sorry, hold on. We need to go back and ask for the vote again, correct?
We need to go back and reopen the public
we do.
hearing on this one.
Yep. Oh, I want to make sure we're following Robert's
Hey,
rules.
follow
You are
Florida State
challenging me
statute.
tonight. Okay,
You're doing great, Madam Chair.
I'm trying. All right, so we're going to open up 13B again. Okay.
You need a motion, and we need to vote on it.
I do need a motion for.
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Schiff has made the motion for 13B. Anyone second?
Second.
Okay, Dr. Jones, second. And this is the second go-around. That's how I'm writing it, Nancy? Okay.
And this is draft volume 22, number 1, special update, correct? PO 2215, revised 10/6 of 21.
This is public hearing and adoption of revised policy 169.1.
169.1.
169.1, public participation at meetings.
Oh, wait, please hold.
Okay. Could I get a vote on reopening this?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Okay, 4-1.
So where's 13B on this? The draft volume 22, number 1, special update. the program of instruction?
That was 13A.
That was
On
13A.
here, it's listed under 13A.
For the one I just, the,
Yeah. 13A is what you just spoke to. 13B is on public participation in meetings.
okay. So many policies. All right, let's go do
There
that.
are. Okay, Mr. Marsh, ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Well, we don't got too much on this one, but once again, I am Michael, Mike for Liberty. I'm the co-founder of that. We the really real, we the people of Indian River County. Also, I am the chair of the People Against the Re-election of Wacky Yacky. I stand before you tonight.
Mr. Marsh,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Marsh, please do not, hold on. Everyone else, please let me handle it, okay? Mr. Marsh,
Yes.
you can't call out board members, okay?
I didn't say any board member's name.
No, Mr. Marsh, everybody know.
Didn't say one board
Okay.
member's name.
Mr. Marsh, continue.
Everyone gives titles. Okay, well,
Thank
we'll
you.
just be Mike for Liberty and the really real people.
Thank you.
Well, when someone laughs and she can say this is ridiculous, that's not good
Don't-
decorum either.
Just
Mr. Marsh,
Yes,
please.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So this is 169.1, and one moment here. I just wanted to mention that after this gets adopted, there will be no more signs, I believe, from reading this. I believe once you guys adopt this, subsection F says, "No signs or placards shall be allowed in the board meeting room. No board action shall be taken on requests made during public discussion unless the board declares the matter to be an emergency in accordance with current law. Any other requests that the board chooses to take action on shall be placed on agenda for subsequent meeting." So I just want to remind those tonight that once this is voted in, we cannot bring signs or placards. I guess my question to the board, would that also mean certain shirts, or are we just going for signs that we hold in hands? I just want to make sure everyone understands, because it sounds like this is going to be voted in tonight. But I just want to point that out for those who may not have went through board docs and seen subsection F, because I know a lot of times we bring our signs. Some signs are great, some signs are eh. But, you know, once this gets voted in tonight, we the people will no longer be bringing signs or placards here in the board meeting room, if I interpret this correctly here. And lastly, we want to thank the fact that you guys do allow the public to speak. We have the ability, not just on one item to give citizen input, but we do have the ability on all these on the consent, like I'm doing here tonight, to prove the point that we are able to do so. So as we keep saying that we want to take back our power, this is one of the ways we can take back our power. Find out what policies are being adopted and come up here and speak to them. And for my last few seconds, just a moment of silence, a little prayer, because things are a little tense in here. Thank you. Once again, Madam Chair.
all right.
Yeah, please,
Tell
no
the preacher
speaking,
thank you.
please.
And lastly, the next one for 13C, do we go right to that, or?
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to change your vote from the original vote on that item? Is she in the room? She's not in the room. Okay. Okay. All right. Now we are reopening 13C. Can I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
We
yeah.
hadn't gotten to 13C yet. Okay. And Mr. Marsh, you are not first speaker on this one, so.
Oh, no bueno.
Okay.
That's all right. We need a moment anyway.
Can we take, we're going to take a minute so Ms. Rosario can join us again. Thank you. I'm going to take 7:09, board members, let's take 4 minutes, okay? We are in agenda number 13C, updated public hearing for adoption of math instructional materials. This is to receive public comments about proposed order of adoption for the math instructional materials. Public hearing will be done on February 28th. I'd like to call for a motion.
So move.
Dr. Jones? And a second?
Second.
Mr. Barefoot, I saw your hand up first. Any discussion?
I have a discussion.
Okay. Mrs. Rosario, you're recognized.
Thank you. I brought this up before, and I just think that this is a little too premature for us to have this tonight. Our process, or what was proposed to us, is that we are not going to vote on an official curriculum until, what was the date? It was April, Mr. Meyer? Just want to get it straight. Do I have that correct?
But through the chair, there's not to be a vote tonight. There is a vote to adopt, meaning to select the bulk of them in February, but then the vote to procure, meaning to purchase only one product, that is in April. So yes, you're correct.
April. That's what I wanted to know. So the final recommendation is coming to us in April.
Correct.
Tonight was just to open up for public comment, and then on February 28th, after having this opened up for public comment, we would vote to approve the recommended adoption order of instructional materials. So my question is, what are we voting on February 28th versus the final recommendation in April? And why are there two votes when we could just wait until the final recommendation? Not counting the public hearing, because I understand that we need to open, at some point, we need to open it up for public hearing. But can you help explain that?
Through the chair, absolutely, great question. So Florida statutes require districts to go through a number of steps in order to formally complete the entirety of the process. We have to have the open notice public hearing, which is tonight, and that has to be on a separate date, a separate meeting date than the vote to adopt. Districts must adopt in order to set forth the 30-day window for petitions. So that's what would occur between February 28th and the 30 days after that. That's also when we anticipate the state of Florida to release the list of books that are approved by the commissioner. So we anticipate receiving that April 1st, which is around about the time that the 30-day petition window is over. That gives the district the opportunity to defend any petitions if the district chooses to. As I said at the presentation on January the 10th, we have not received the best and final offers for the cost, nor the list that is official for us to select from the state, which is why we would bring that final item to the board in April. But at that point, I think the benefit of doing things in this order this year is that the district is done. We've done all the requisite steps. We reviewed the content. We've allowed for the public hearing. We've allowed for the public petition process, and then we can make that final vote in April, because what we learned last year was doing all of that after April led us not to get to the last step until, I believe it was July the 5th, which means that when we ordered those Amplify books, they did not arrive in time. And that really put our teachers and our students and everyone at a disadvantage. So by moving through these steps of this process, at an earlier month, we were going to be able to procure the books that last week in April, which puts us at a better timeline of getting them before the school year starts.
So the DOE has a call for guest reviewers, and the call for guest, we talked about this.
Yep.
And the call for guest reviewers is held between January 14th and January 28th. Then after that, I believe there is access to the materials. Access to the requested materials will be available via the FLIM system through the DOE for 2 weeks. That would be from the 14th to the 28th. And then after that 2-week period has ended, of course, access to the materials will be blocked. So there are people who have signed up, I suppose, to be this guest reviewer guest reviewer of the books that are being recommended, or the books, the math instructional materials adoption process. And then at that point, the DOE, it's my understanding that the DOE will then make their final recommendation after these reviewers. So us opening it up for public comment now prior to the DOE doing what they're supposed to do, just seems too premature for me. We should wait until the DOE does their process and then open it up for public comment, I would say anytime after the 28th, which is right around the corner, but if having one meeting a month is going to be the determiner for saying, well, we're not going to have time because we have one meeting a month, that shouldn't hold us up, because we can have a special meeting anytime.
So through the chair, respectfully disagree. And we've been through this, and we've lobbied state government to change this. It's unfortunate that the state has set these timelines to not give us their list until April 1st. It's just impossible for us to go through the entirety of a district review and adoption process between April 1st and the time we need the materials to train teachers in the summer. It would be much more beneficial if the state were to give us their lists October 1st. Then, like you said, we would have plenty of time to get everything done. But if they're not going to give us their list until April 1st, we have to do portions of our process concurrently. And I understand your point of view, I do. I just disagree that, we're reviewing materials which may not make the list. And I get how frustrating that is to the community and to the teachers. Actually, the teachers are more frustrated by anybody, and myself also. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't do this concurrentently, we put our kids at a disadvantage, and that's not something that we're willing to do. So all the content has been reviewed by those who wanted to be part of the committee. We'd love to hear the public's comment. If there's petitions for any potential products, like I said, we'll wait to see when the state releases their final list, and if the state doesn't put it on the list, then there's no point in defending a product that may have been petitioned. But also, if the financial offer is better for the district to go with a different product maybe than what there's a petition on, maybe that's another reason we wouldn't select that product. But all of that would come in April. Like I said, it's a process that we redesigned this year, learning the lessons that we learned last year when we did not receive our books in time.
So the 20 days and the 30 days, are those business days or are those work days?
To my knowledge, those are calendar days, but we've had more than enough. More than enough, yeah.
No, I know that the process began with the committee way back in August and September, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of the work that the committee members have done thus far. You sending that information that you sent with that Excel sheet was very, very helpful. A little disappointed that we didn't have more community members on that committee review, on that review committee for the math instructional materials. Very, very few, and parents, very few. But we really should do better on that end. So I appreciate that, so I get it. I just think that we can actually begin public hearing in February and still have plenty of time. I've looked at the calendar. We can do February, sometime in February for the 20 calendar days to open it up for the public hearing, and then our 30 days can begin from March to April. That would give us time to kind of hear back from the DOE, and we could, when we open it up for public hearing, we're not opening it up for every single math curriculum, which obviously I have issues with SAVIS also, but we would just open it up at that point for the particular or the specific materials that the DOE hopefully would let us know if they have any, feedback or impact, or who knows, maybe they'll do what they did with HMH, or, not with HMH, with Amplify, when they requested that Amplify, they sent a notice to Amplify to change certain things in their curriculum. That makes a big difference, so that's where I stand on it. I just wanted to make that public comment on that. I know Dr. Moore knows how I feel about this as well.
Any other board members want to say something? Yes, Dr. Jones.
Well, we have the public hearing for the adoption of math instructional materials tonight, so it's on our action item, so we have to go ahead with that. And I'm just very hopeful that we get the information from the state at an appropriate time. So when we do choose, we get those books to our students and teachers. And thank you again for moving this up, because we were really behind the 8 ball, especially last summer with our teachers not getting anything until July. Puts a lot of students behind too to get them ready. So we have that on our action item tonight, so I think we need to hear it.
Any other board members? You're good. Just one question I have is, the public still can speak throughout this whole thing, right?
Absolutely,
So
and
at
that's
any point, they can bring up their concerns they have with math materials until the final vote.
absolutely, and I think that's, as already mentioned tonight, this board does allow public comment often. I guess that maybe there was a concern in the past that boards were not doing that, so that's why they put it into statute to require there to be a meeting such as this one. But absolutely, this board allows open public comment at every one of the meetings. So can certainly speak to it next month when it's for the vote. I don't anticipate there being an item in March, but certainly could be that. And then obviously we'd have an item in April to have the final procurement, which the public could speak to as well.
Okay. All right. So we're going to I need to have people be able to speak to this item before the vote, correct? Yeah.
Yes, that is correct, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
So at this point, we're going to have people speak to the board before we go ahead and do our vote. And, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So the first one up is Jennifer Pippin. On deck is Thomas Kenny.
Good evening and thank you. I am actually speaking on behalf of Chris Allen's work. She has been on the committee for the math, and she was also accepted as a Department of Education curriculum reviewer as well since the last meeting, so I did want to let you guys know that. So I'm just going to review some of her notes from the Advanced Elective Math Curriculums from SAVIS. In the preface of the Blitzer book, Mathematics for College Liberal Arts, which could be taken by high school students here in Indian River County, depending on how apt they are with their mathematics. In the preface, it says, measuring racial prejudice by age. It's talking about racism embedded in American society dependent on age. That contains critical race theory, which is banned by the Department of Education. Page 62, there was a bar graph with measuring racial prejudice by age again, and talking about how students must answer the 4 questions regarding themselves in this chart. Again, critical race theory banned by the DOE. Lesson on page 182, it says that it's not the case in the United States that's eradicated poverty or racism. The answer to this is the United States has eradicated neither poverty nor racism. Again, CRT banned. In the treatment of contents later in the book, it talks about time periods of racism and how it directly relates to the child doing the lesson in the book. In magazines, the mainstream media polls on page 272 talks about nonprofits and racism in these nonprofits and mainstream media polls and how it relates to the child's understanding of these things. Scatter plots and correlation on page 828. It's talking about prejudice between relationships of interracial and education of adults in the system. Again, CRT and talking about education that is inappropriate for children. So I can go on and talk about these different bar graphs and things. We have it on our Moms for Liberty site. It is public record, her notes and all of her very explicit, detailed things. And we've also submitted all of this information to the board, to the Department of Education, Governor DeSantis, all of our local representatives. So we as an organization have done our due diligence in this, in addressing this issue. And we would just highly, highly recommend you not adopting the SAVIS and also the HMH from previous. They have not changed their curriculum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pippin. Thomas Kenny's next, and Michael C. Marsh is after that. Thomas Kenny here? He's not here? Did he leave? Oh, he's out there. Okay. No problem. The microphone is yours, sir.
This is in regard to curriculum. And I want to refer you to this page here in the Savas materials. There's a chart measuring racial prejudice. This is done by a group that started as, I guess, I'm not sure if it was a PhD project or a graduate project at Harvard, called Project Implicit. Project Implicit is now a 501c3 where they do this data stuff. What's funny about this, it says that conservatives are more racist in their little chart here, if you look at this graph. It's really strange because I don't know how they came to that conclusion. I'm going to go take the test. I found it very funny. Because when I look at this, it tells me that they would accuse Frederick Douglass of racism. Based on this, because he was a conservative, he was a Republican, he spent 18 months studying the Constitution, because what he found was that William Lloyd Garrison, who he was mentored by, he wanted to get rid of the Constitution because he thought it was a slave document. Douglass studied for 18 months, came away and found out that the Constitution was the most anti-slavery document that he had known, and got totally behind it and started the North Star. But today, with this is in our curriculum. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. Every conservative, black, white, Chinese, Japanese, you name it, is being accused of racism implicitly. Look, you can show this to your kids if you want to run a heartless school system. Heartless. Heartless school system. We can all be technocrats and run these datas and ask all these complex questions and present them as some type of great new insight, but it's not insight to the heart. This is BS. It's racist BS of the highest order, and it's in a curriculum that's been endorsed by I don't know who, but should not be picked here. It's absurd. Project Implicit, they're implicitly racist.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Michael C. Marsh and Lamar Noda Giacomo is on deck. Just wait to me and I'll come back over.
Should I wait? Or?
Don't do it.
No one's stopping you. Good evening once again. I'm admin for Mike for Liberty, and we the people here in Indian River County. And we're a little concerned about this math curriculum too. But our stance is a little different. Let me tell you why. Before we start going after the math books, can any of these people going after them do the polynomials that's in the problems? Probably not. Also, I'm looking here and I see Florida's Best. Now, I went to a very informative workshop that former board members Justice and Zork were at. Iron sharpens iron. And I think that these are the industry experts on this. And I would really hope that we can bring them back and get their feedback. Because the Florida's Best, I listened to both of them, and I think we're doing a grave disservice when it comes to this curriculum if we don't ask the experts, Ms. Justice and Mrs. Zork. Just my opinion. Also here, excuse me, before we start going after math books, and I think one of the board members stated that it's sad that we didn't have more parents' input. You know who else doesn't challenge these math books or books in general? Educators. Educators are the first line of defense here in the school district of Indian River County. An organization recently said on C-SPAN, not one person should ever be able to ask for books to be removed. A great organization, a watchdog of school boards. You guys might have heard of them. So where's the educators? I don't know how many are here tonight. Appendix H, mwah, great thing that we have. How many educators, how many parents, how many concerned community members turned in those forms? Now, I do public records, shocking to some, 1. So where's all the grave concern? Before we start asking for removal of curriculum, let's bring in the educators, because this is a new school district of Indian River County, and we have a lot of educators that will professionally speak against our superintendent or even what school board members are doing, but they're not here.
Are you speaking to the math adoption materials?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. So first and foremost, our first line of defense is our educators. Give them a voice. And if they were given a voice, then I guess math curriculum, muy bueno. In closing, I really implore you guys, Tiffany Justice did some great work when she was here, and so did Laura Zork. They both, the best. I went to a meeting. I think we should ask their opinion, guys. I think we should. All right, that's all I got, guys. You have a great evening, and I'll see you on the next trip.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Marsh. Lamar Nota Giacomo.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to talk about what's in the book, the SAVIS curriculum. Page 793, the chart shows wage gap between gender and race. The emphasis on the topic does not portray gender and ethnicity fairness. Gender and ethnicity advocacy is biased. Page 380, okay, this is mathematics for college liberal arts. This would be for high school students. Page 380, number 72, question is about a male, Ricky Ricardo, drafted by military with gender bias, that his savings account would be divided unproportionally if child was male versus female. The problem nonchalantly states that draftee did not return home. We'll never know what Ricky was thinking of, for as fate would have it, he did not return from the war. It makes the student figure out how the money would be divided based on gender of twins. The emphasis on this topic does not portray gender fairness, gender advocacy, and is biased. It's also callous and warped, in my opinion. Page 437, multiple questions regarding the emphasis that women lose $435,049 due to a pay gap. The source of the data is Time magazine. Page 714, number 61, mentions an anti-Semitic joke about marriage and divorce. Why do Jewish divorces cost so much? Because they're worth it. This does not portray multicultural fairness and advocacy. Narratives within the book contain topics that are neither age-appropriate nor engaging to the students. Examples are alcohol use, divorce, marijuana, illegal activities, gender bias, racial prejudice, etc. Chapter 1, intro, page 1. The author is biased when it comes to global warming and climate crisis. He talks about a climate crisis as if it's proven fact. Page 28 says problems 51 and 52. There's strong scientific consensus that human activities are changing the Earth's climate. The chart's data ends in the year 2015 with average global temperatures appearing to increase, but doesn't show how the Earth's temperatures have decreased in years after. Content is not up to date with contemporary facts and concepts. Data is 6 years old. Page 411, lessons talk about modern emphasis on ideal body shape as a major cause of eating disorders among adolescent women. Never mentions that eating disorders happen to men too. Page 828, the level of significance of lessons talks about the relationship between education and prejudice. There's no source for the data. This happens a lot. There's a lot of bias and sources are not provided. Page 198, chapter 3, should the death penalty be abolished? Should Roe v. Wade be overturned? Are online classes a good idea? Should recreational marijuana be legalized? I mean, I thought this was math. Should grades be abolished? Should the Electoral College be replaced with popular vote? No bias there. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there's a lot of bias and political correctness and indoctrination going on in math. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nota Giacomo. Board members, anyone like to speak? Okay. I actually have a question. Mrs. Pippin, you brought up that it was the Savas College book. Is that the book that all of you are the same book? Because I was told, I believe, Mr. Meyer, in our conversation, we talked about 2 books of concern. One was the college book, and what was the other one that was of concern to some people?
Mr. Chair, I don't want to misquote the speakers. They may correct me, but what I'm aware of is some concerns in a pre-calculus book and a math for college.
Is that correct?
AP.
So it's
AP.
It's the AP calculus
I
book?
don't believe there's AP. Advanced Placement has their own curriculum adoption from that company.
They have a separate one.
Right, but this would be for the pre-calculus courses that are offered by the high school.
This says AP Math, right here.
I mean, I don't know what you're holding up, but I know that when the Florida Department of Education does instructional materials adoptions, they do them for the course codes listed in the state course code directory, and that's for high school pre-calculus is what that book is. Pearson
Okay,
is,
so
or
the
Savas is bidding to be approved for that
Okay.
course.
So that all board members are aware, and I think, this is the time to make us aware, because this is when we want to hear from the public. So I've heard concerns about the college book in Savas, and I've heard concerns about the pre-calculus book in Savas. I've had other people say Savas all the way across, but I've also read some of the reports, and I believe you brought up one of the reviewers, and I read her review, that she liked the Savas K-8. Is that correct?
So through the chair, I mean, I think if you look, there's an Excel file that you can look at. You can see where each reviewer rated each of the products, whether it be 6th grade math with a certain vendor or the pre-calculus with a certain vendor, using the rubric that was board approved in August. And then, so there are scores that are there. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you which reviewers rated which product higher or lower, but it's all there for
Okay,
inspection.
and so is that, what you're stating right now, is that available for anybody to see?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Okay. I want to make sure people know that, because I've heard a couple of things. I've heard Savas all the way across, please no, and yet I'm hearing about 2 specific books of Savas. So I want to make sure that people are very specific with this, because I'd hate to throw out something that was really good if the rest of it was good, but just the higher level books were of concern. That's why I'm bringing that up. Okay, hold on one second, Ms.
I was just going to say, Madam Chair, until we know what books are state adopted, we also go from there, because some of these may be on the state adoption list, some may not. So.
Right, but now's our time to hear from the public.
Right, that's why I
So that's why I
mentioned
wanted
that,
to find
yeah.
out, what is the public concerned about? Because I think some of the misconceptions that are out there is that it's one publisher all the way K to 12 that's bad. And like I'm hearing, some people are very mixed reviews in this room about it. So I wanted to make sure, because I looked at the reviews with Mr. Meyer, and I did notice that the one particular viewer that you mentioned, who is now on the state review group, mentioned her concerns about the 2 books that I brought up, but not the others. So I wanted to find out for sure is it okay for us to call Ms. Pippin back up and ask about that?
You're the chair.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure I'm not violating anything. Okay. Is that correct?
Can she come to the microphone?
Mathematically, the college level, K through 8 was a different curriculum than the AP elective.
Can you say that in the microphone? Because I think that needs to be stated, because there are people that are putting out there that Savas is really bad K to 12. And I want to make sure that people understand exactly what is being said.
Yes, so again, Chris Allen, she apologized she can't be here. She did with Mr. Myers the pre-calculus and thinking mathematically, the college level, and the K through 8 was a different curriculum than the AP elective. So it was just, it's different, the books are different from the K through 8 elective.
So I think we need to get that message out there, because I think there are people that are very confused. You should see the emails we're getting. So there are people confused about that.
Perfect, thank you.
I just want to make sure, okay? Yes?
Ms. Pippin, can I ask her a question, Madam Chair?
Sure, why not? This is to listen to the public, so I'm okay with this.
One of the 2 handouts that were sent to us, one of them is titled Advanced Elective Math. I just want to confirm that that's what you have. One is the Savas Advanced Elective Math, and then the other one is the Savas AP Math.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I wanted that very clear because some people are writing to us telling us that Savas all the way across is a terrible curriculum. I want people to really understand what's being said. So there are just 2 books that are of concern, and they're the higher level books. The higher level books. Okay. We just want to make that. Mr. Marsh, is it about the book specifically? What about the book specifically?
How many students are objecting to that?
I don't know at this time. How many students?
0.
0? I don't know. Mr. Meyer? you
So
want-
through the chair, we haven't adopted nor procured the book, so this is, a proposal for next year. Historically, we have about 100 kids at Sebastian River and 100 kids at Vero Beach that take that course.
Okay.
But we're hoping to have more, but that's how many
I
historically.
understand. So I think for us to know what concerns that people have about specific books, because I don't want it thrown out there that one publisher is bad. That's what kind of happened last time with one publisher. So I just want to make sure that we're very, very careful as to what we're saying about what the concerns are and which books we have concerns with. So it's 2 books that I've heard of, the Savas Pre-Calculus and the Savas College book are the only 2 that have really come up as concerns. Is that correct, Mr. Meyer? Okay. Okay, thank you. Are we good there? Okay, and I've been told that we do not vote on this because even though it has it on my little agenda item over here, there is no vote on this. Okay, board members? Because this is just open to listen to public hearing. There will be a vote in February. Okay, moving on to item 13D, approval of board protocols. Before we bring this item up, we have a speaker to this item. First, I'm going to call for the motion.
So move.
Okay,
Second.
that's Dr. Jones for the first, Dr. Schiff for the second. All right. Any discussion, board members, or do you want to listen to input first?
Input's fine.
Okay. We have one speaker, Michael C. Marsh.
Through the chair, there's actually a policy I'm going to speak about. Every time I come up here, a board member leaves the room. I mean, there's a policy right on that about professionalism. Through the chair. I will actually go over that right now. Roles and authority of the board members. The Indian River County School Board is responsible for public schools in Indian River County. The board acts collectively to enforce local and state rules, determines local policy and procedure consistent with such rules, and operates in the best interest of Indian River County schools and its students. Another one I will highlight, the board creates, reviews, and evaluates policies and protocols regularly. Board members cannot represent any action, will, or intent of the board corporate in a public setting except with board approval or consensus at a duly noticed business meeting, discussion session, or workshop. Let's talk about the roles of the superintendent. The one I want to highlight is the superintendent provides leadership to continually improve the educational experience of all students by being a viable presence in the schools while offering support, encouragement, guidance, and feedback to all faculty, staff, students, and families. And lastly, in board meetings, board members are expected to be prepared for all meetings by having read all relevant documents, conducted any necessary research, and held meetings with the superintendent or other relevant district personnel prior to the meeting. Board members shall make every effort to not provide last-minute materials at the meeting for consideration by the board. So meeting expectations. School board members are expected to model appropriate behavior, including courtesy, active listening, and respect. Ongoing professional development of board members. Board members are encouraged to stay current on educational issues, including legislative and other legal issues affecting our educational policy. And lastly, board members are expected to complete an ethics training once a year. You know what's not on there? Weaponizing the school district against concerned citizens. Right now, I put a public record request in, and I want to know how much it costs us, the taxpayers, for a school board member to get a public record.
Is that on board
Yes,
protocols,
yes, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
So there was flash drives, correct me if I'm wrong, that was given out to the school board. Extensive research, hours and hours.
That's not on protocols.
But it talks
You can
about
speak to, you can speak to that in next citizen input.
courtesy and decorum.
I know, that's at the next citizen
Okay,
input,
well, let's
specifically
find out how
to
much
that.
it costs the taxpayers. That's important.
Okay. You want to bring that up at the next citizen input? That is,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
all means, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Tens of thousands if I would request that. So, in closing, I want to go back, because a lot of times we hear so much negative, and I want to end with a positive. In 2020, a great publication, Viral News, pointed out that Superintendent Moore, through the chair, obliterates bad schools. He doesn't just go into bad schools, he fixes them. I urge you, great news source, Ray McNulty, mwah, obliterates bad schools was the quote. That is what we're seeing here in the school district of Indian River County. Guys, have a great night. Thank you all for actually listening and not walking out of the room. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Okay, board members, anyone like to have a discussion on their approval of board protocols? Dr. Jones.
Just a very special thank you to Dr. Jacobs, who is our facilitator. I looked back in our email. We started this in August of last year, and it took time from probably every discussion, and Dr. Moore also let us put it on the workshop. And when we completed the Florida Master Board training, I thought that was great. And through the FSBA training, it said that most school boards do have protocols. So I just want to thank the whole board for working on that, Dr. Jacobs for facilitating that, and I think that we did a good job of what we need to do for our students in this county, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Dr. Schiff?
Yeah, I just want to highlight, in light of our discussion this afternoon, that while we may approve these protocols tonight, as these are not policy and don't have to go out for public hearing, they can also be amended at any time the board chooses. And in light of our conversation this afternoon, we realized that something we had not adequately discussed was the relationship of board members and public records requests, and that we wanted to add that into protocol. So I anticipate this will be coming back. And that how board members ask for information outside of the public records request process will be added at a future workshop.
Okay. Mr. Barefoot, you good? Okay. Mr. Rosario?
No, I don't.
You're good. Yeah, I'd just like to say that, thank you, Dr. Jacobs, for everything you did. It was tough to corral this group, so I appreciate that. We did discuss this for a long time through all our workshops. If you'd like to go back and watch all those wonderful recordings, you're more than welcome to. We went through all of our protocols word by word, literally word by word, and tried to clean it up as best we could for being able to conduct really good meetings with a lot of production. I'm going to address one thing that came up, and that was the sign issue, because I know we have signs tonight. It's not so much that it's not about, having signs of concern that people, want to be able to show us what they're concerned about. It's more about obstructing other people's views, obstructing cameras. We've had people bring in signs for things that were offensive, and really not in our control until they're on camera. So if we are able to remove signs, then we are able to remove that potentially happening. So it wasn't anything, one specific reason, it was just a general, we've had some other concerns, and we did discuss that for quite a long time. So with that, that's all I have to say. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Okay. All right, with that, we have the report from the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a brief report. As you know, I was requested to provide a report in January regarding where we were at the library books. This will serve as that update. Some decisions that have been made moving forward as we reflected through the entire process, not only the board-approved process, but part of the item is to overhaul and look at the totality of how we're doing libraries in the checkout process. One of the things that we will be adding is the opportunity for parents to know what their children are checking out. So you can go on your Focus app and you'll be able to, at all times, see any book that is being checked out. That provides parents the opportunity to have a clear and deep understanding as to which books their children are checking out. We're also on the opposite end of that, providing opportunities for parents to notify us if they want their children to check out books, or if there are individual books in which they do not want their parents to check out. So as we talk about parental rights, we're going to lead with that philosophy and empower parents the opportunity to have the conversations with their children regarding which books will be allowed to check out, will be using the library, or will they not at all, or will they simply monitor or not look at the library. So that action is in the process of being implemented, and as we come back in February, will be fully implemented. Also, one of the things that we're doing is convening a committee of media specialists, students, and our facilities officer, really to look at the space itself. So when we look at the media centers as a whole, we think there are drastic opportunities to begin to reimagine what that space is so it can be better used by students. And why not allow children to be the author of what that space looks like? We will fund their dreams or imagine what they dream up. There'll be a budget, so there'll be a learning opportunity there as well, but an opportunity for media specialists to work with students to re-envision what that space is. Collaboration centers, research tools that can be used, and moving away from the outdated library in which children in today's world are not maximizing that particular design model, but ultimately enhancing that. We've also done a look at the legal review to support the review process, and I'll have our attorney reference where we are with that process.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, just giving a brief overview of the law and policy that comes into play with this issue. Under Section 1006.28 Florida statutes, school boards must have a process for parents and community members to ask for review and reconsideration of any material used in a classroom or made available in a school library that contains content that is either pornographic, prohibited under Section 847.012 Florida statutes, not suited to student needs and ability to comprehend, or inappropriate for the grade level and age group for which the material is used. So we have received, under our board policy 9310, some requests from members of the public for reconsideration of our materials, and there is a review committee that is going to review the books to determine if they contain this content that Florida statutes tells us is prohibited. Now, to give you an idea what legal definitions are for this prohibited content, when we talk about prohibited under Section 847.012, that's part of Florida's obscenity code. And that code gives us a definition in 847.001 of what obscene means. And it specifically prohibits materials which, A, the average person applying contemporary community standards would find, taken as a whole, appeals to the prurient interest. B, depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct as specifically defined in that statute. And C, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. So there, when those materials are being reviewed, the books will need to be looked at as a whole, and it will be taken into consideration whether or not they contain any other serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. That is not the only content that we're looking for. We're also looking for pornographic material. Pornographic material would be that material that portrays sexual subject matter and is for the exclusive purpose of sexual arousal. And then also, thirdly, we're also looking to make sure that materials are appropriate for the grade level and age group for which they are being assigned. There have also been some challenges based on the idea of critical race theory. Now that is covered under a Florida Administrative Code Rule 6A-1.094124 that talks about required instruction. Under subsection 3B, it states that instruction on certain required topics cannot suppress or distort historical events, and it lists some of those events, and then it also says that examples of theories that do distort historical events and are inconsistent with state board approved standards include the denial or minimization of the Holocaust and the teaching of critical race theory, meaning the theory that racism is not merely the product of prejudice, but that racism is embedded in American society and its legal systems in order to uphold the supremacy of white persons. So here, that rule is designed at looking at instructional materials that are used in classrooms and not designed at looking at our library materials. And so I just wanted to provide that. I didn't want to go into too much detail, but to give a brief overview of what the law and policies that the board needs to look at when they are thinking about this issue of reviewing their library materials. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we finish this review, now that we have this legal guidance, it gives us solid footing to make recommendations. At the end of the day, the process isn't done, but we think you're going to see books that are not age appropriate, that are in a middle school, being moved to a high school, and really taking a deep look at where we have these books and is it in fact age appropriate, and then really leading on the simple fact that we have parental choice regarding who or which children are allowed to read this based on the rights of their parents. So coming back in February, we'll be able to bring an item to the board that captures, or a presentation to the board that captures the entire process, where books were. As mentioned, critical race theory is not something that these books in the Media Center are being used to teach. They are supplemental materials that are in the library and will not be used for a teacher-led instruction for that purpose. So that makes that process a little bit more streamlined in terms of clearing those books, and then really looking at some of the language and content in the books as it relates to, is it age appropriate, in order to ensure those books are moved to where they are in fact age appropriate, whether it is completely off the shelf or whether it's moved from middle school to high school only. It's very important to know that these books are not in elementary school. So a great deal of work has been done. We are taking the time to review each and every single book with everything that's going on in schools as it relates to coverage for classrooms and keeping classrooms open. It is taking a great deal of time, but what we will give assurances to this court to this court, because that's where we're going to end up. Assurances to this board. We have a solid legal backing. We fully upheld board policy in terms of the review process and made decisions that represent all children and ultimately choice. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moore. All right.
Open it up for comment, or did we do that already?
No, that's under, he was under superintendent's report. So now it's,
Question though for him.
okay.
Dr. Moore, I have a question.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the proposal for parents to have the voice in the library system, or, moving forward when that is finally implemented, where parents can actually identify, I don't know how that's going to look, but of course identify how their children, select books or take books out or not, if that's the case. I don't know if that's through keywords or, identifying through, going through the media center specialist. However that works, I just wanted to thank you for that update. However, I do have a question. You mentioned, what was mentioned was the review committee of the current Appendix H submissions for the books that are now in question, for, whatever those are. Who is on that selection committee or that review committee? I've heard that we did not have a committee, or initially we should have, because we have a procedure that identifies we should have had a committee to vet the books. I mean, we've already talked about this already. And then we heard that there would be a committee to review the books in question. And then I heard that there wasn't a committee, it was just the media center specialist reviewing all of those. And now I'm hearing there is a review committee. So can you just, once and for all, just clarify that, please?
I don't know that it's ever not been the media specialists who serve as that
Okay.
committee. That's
Okay.
always been, there's never been anything communicated outside of my mouth that it's been anything different. So there shouldn't be any confusion that it's always been the 22 media specialists and members of Mr. Meyer's team looking through each of these individual books. You may be referring to, there should have been a committee in order to place books on the shelves that was put in place in 2014. Maybe that is a part of the confusion there. And that is what we initially found that committee or process wasn't being followed. So
Right,
part of the
okay.
corrective action that we're taking now is in order to ensure that is in fact in play moving forward.
So when you bring us the final recommendation in February, and a clear, I'm supposing that the policy is going to be rewritten or reproposed so that, or proposed to us so that it is clear who's on that committee for vetting books moving forward and how the books received are going to be vetted to get on the shelves. So because that wasn't done before, I guess I'm asking in advance, is that going to be presented to us as well?
Through the chair, I don't think that's necessarily part of the policy change, but as I operationalize that particular policy, it is just standard operating procedure for an effective system to say, this is who's on the committee, this is how it's being done, this is when it will convene, when we receive, this, that, or the other request. So bringing that to the board, as we move forward, if this continues, and hopefully with the choice that we're providing parents, everyone has the ability to say, this is all right for my family, this is not all right for my family, resolves a lot of those particular issues. But we will clearly define the process.
Well, it really doesn't, because books that have pornographic information should not be available to children, period. They should not be available. It really doesn't, it helps because it gives parents, it makes parents feel like they're responsible or they have control over that particular area, but it doesn't solve the problem that materials that are on the shelves with pornographic information or graphic sexual content that shouldn't be there because it certainly is not age appropriate.
And that's why we have a school board attorney who's weighed in with multiple attorneys as well as the opinion of 22 different media specialists. So this one opinion isn't laying on my shoulders, but those who stand in front of children clearly understand law as it's being interpreted to make that right decision.
Well, we just heard from our attorney, and our attorney very clearly stated that books that have pornographic information, sexual graphic content, and is not age appropriate should not be available. So I heard that very clearly, and I appreciate, that message. Because if this isn't done the right way and those books go back on the shelf, we are going to wind up in court. But you did mention something else about ensuring that they're not in elementary school. So was that clear that you're only looking to make sure that these books are not in elementary or in all?
I think there are 2 books, correct me if I'm wrong, that were picture books that were in elementary school. So we're looking at, is it age appropriate? Is it pornographic? Looking at the totality of the definition in which she just referenced. Did I?
Through the chair, there were a few, Dr. Moore, at least 2 that were at the elementary school, but then when we discussed moving them to an age band that is more appropriate, I think that's what you were referring to from our conversations, that some books may move from elementary to middle or middle to high, and certainly there would not be, at the end of this process, any books at the elementary school level that would anywhere come close to the definitions in statute.
And we're using, I just want to be clear, we are using the statute 847.001 that actually has the definitions there, right?
Through the chair, yes, we will be using the guidance from legal counsel to make the determination of our procedures moving forward.
guidance from legal counsel? You're not looking at the statute yourself? You're just determining everything, you're just waiting on counsel?
Through the chair, Ms. Rosario, you don't twist my words against me. I gave you an answer.
I'm just clarifying, because that's what you said, Mr. Meyer.
It's just standard practice that when you're dealing with statute, you loop in your lawyer who can review not only the interpretation but case law and give you solid grounds in which to act. So yes, we're just not reading it and interpreting it ourselves. We're a little bit smarter than that and looking at multiple interpretations with those who have law degrees in order to ensure that we're getting this absolutely right. So, we don't go to jail.
So we're doing both then? We're using the statutes and using our legal counsel?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Schiff?
Yeah, so what I hear in this conversation is that we are going to ensure that we follow statute by relying on the advice of the attorney and the attorneys with whom she may consult to ensure that there is agreement around following statute and that we follow what is defined as pornographic and what is not defined as pornographic. What I also appreciate about this conversation is what I heard you say, Dr. Moore, is that we've talked a lot about parental rights here, and that what we will be doing moving forward is honoring the rights of all parents to make a determination following legal statute of what they consider to be appropriate for their children by allowing them access to those books that are checked out by their students so that they may have some say and some review over that, but that we not make decisions for all parents from the district, but we allow parents, as in statute, again, the right to make determinations for their children. Am I hearing that correctly?
You're hearing that correct.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Rosario.
So am I to, and I hope the answer is no, am I to understand that we are not going to receive books to vote on of the 130, I don't even know what the number is right now?
145.
Am I hearing that the only recommendation is to open up for parents to choose what library books and everything else is going to remain on the shelves?
No recommendation has come forward yet. So
all of those books have been vetted?
No, that's the process in which they're in. So
Okay.
this is just an update.
Okay.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't. Everyone's not going to be happy here. Let's be honest. There are going to be people who are saying that's pornographic and that should not be on the shelves, and you're going to have others who are saying it is not pornographic, and that's just the truth. And we could go back and forth all day long. Some people see it one way, others see it a different way. As a system, we're having a comprehensive legal review in order to ensure that we are standing on solid ground and making decisions.
So what was interesting, and maybe Ms. Shattuck can kind of help with this, what's interesting is in all of the statutes that I have studied, I can't even believe that I remember them by heart right now, and of all of the definitions that are in 847.001, the one definition that I have not found is age appropriate. What is grade and age appropriate? Who makes that decision? Because as far as I'm concerned, if it's age, if there is no definition of age or grade appropriate, then the lens through which I would recommend is if you would give that to your child in church and let your child read that book in a church service, if the answer is no, then it's not age appropriate. That's my personal, lens through which even at home, if you are allowing your child to read it and it's okay, that's fine, that's on you, you can do that. But if the people who are here in this district would not let their children read that book, that's the lens through which I would personally, would think we would use in this process. But thus far, I have not seen a definition for grade and age appropriate. So Dr. Moore or Ms. Shattuck, is there any legal definition for that? And if so, if not, then Dr. Moore, what are we doing about that?
Thank you, Chair. One thing I'd like to say is you're talking about the definitions in 847.001, and those are the definitions for the obscenity code. The obscenity code is not in the education code, and it's really more of a criminal code. And it does not talk about age and grade appropriate. The statute that talks about age and grade appropriate is 1006.28 Florida statutes, which is in the education code. This is two different things. So this one, you know, doesn't have any criminal aspect to it. This is a code written for educators, and it's up to the educators to make those decisions whether things are grade and age appropriate. And what you have in 1006.28 is it says that you need to have a process for parents and community members to ask for reconsideration when they disagree with the determinations that a district's already made. And that's why we also have this process in 9310, where we do have an ability for members to fill out forms, request reconsideration, and then that goes to a review committee, and they're the ones who are making that determination of whether things are age and grade appropriate. And as Superintendent Moore discussed, they are our media specialists, so these are people that have the experience and knowledge to make those kind of determinations, because that's what they needed to get those positions to begin with.
But those books wound
Could we
up
have
on
it
our
quiet,
shelves.
please? Please, if you'd like to speak, please go outside. This is our business meeting. Thank you.
Dr. Moore, your definition, please, if you have any, or what we're going to use with regard to determining what is age.
I think Ms. Shattuck
Great.
just clearly articulated the stance in which the district takes. In addition to that, the only thing I can add based on the conversation is we don't want to create a system in which we're denying parental rights. And then when we make decisions as to what is or is not appropriate for children, we're taking away those specific rights. So when looking at the supplemental resources that are available in a library, this is not core instruction. It's not being assigned as such. It is simply referring back to school board attorney, convening the 22 members of the team to make recommendations to me in order to determine what is the most appropriate process moving forward. That has been legally vetted and prepared, so when we bring something to this board, it is something that can be defended.
One last comment. Okay. It's interesting, though, that, you know, when it comes to curriculum or masks or mental health and wellness, you know, the parental rights bill was the wrong thing to do. Oh, how dare, you know, parents claim to have parental rights. But now it seems appropriate that when the tables are turned and when some want to use that in their defense to keep these disgusting books on the shelves, that now all of a sudden we don't want to impede on parental rights. It's just very, very, it's really very disheartening, to use a kind word. So I really hope that this ends in a good way. Otherwise, you're right, we will end up in court.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Jones.
Mr. Meyer, I think we're at about 145 in the books. Where's the committee? I mean, just how many have you been able to process?
To the chair, the first work that we did was to norm on, you know, the expectations and the procedures, and then we were waiting, you know, further guidance. We had a new attorney, as Dr. Moore mentioned. We've been through quite a tremendous time here with the Omicron spike, and so quite honestly, we haven't made as much headway as we would like. So we don't have anything to report back as any final recommendations. So we are, you know, I think understanding more the direction that we are going to go with this, and the media specialists feel as though now they're ready to start making some final determinations of, you know, the direction that we'll end up.
And just in general, whenever this is finished, we have the recommendations from the committee, and we go from there. One thing I did check with Dr. Moore on is And as a former high school, middle school principal, I was concerned years ago, but even more so, how many books are being checked out of the library. I mean, we've got a big picture here as far as I think it was at Vero Beach High School, am I correct, 100 in the last year?
That was through the chair, not in the last year prior. I think it was in December when they pulled that number for me.
Okay.
Sometime in December.
With 3,000 students. So, and I think in general, when we look at this with our media specialists, where are we going to go with those spaces, Dr. Moore? I think that's important, and I like everybody to be involved in that and having parents involved with that too, because kids are either reading on their Kindle or whatever it may be. So, but whenever we have that recommendation from the committee, we can move from there. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? I have a question about the review committee. You mentioned 22 media specialists and Mr. Meyer's team. So are those content specialists that are also looking at reviewing these books?
That's correct.
Okay. So, for example, as a science teacher, I know that certain topics I want to make sure fifth graders know, but I want to make sure third graders don't get exposed to. So you have people like that are looking at those books?
I mean, to this point, the challenges have been specific to the obscenity code, so we've been focused more on are the books in violation of that, not so much as the different types of science content. I mean, there's specific objections to each one of the titles that we're trying to work through and norm on what that would look like.
I'm talking about the grade level appropriateness of some of that, because there are some touchy subjects out there, and those touchy subjects, some parents are very uncomfortable with their child being exposed to those touchy subjects early in life. So that's my point, is you have content specialists that are also looking at this.
I mean, I think you got me off track with thinking about the science as a specific
Well, I just
example,
use that as
because
an
we're not
example
looking at
because,
any
I taught
titles
that.
that have any science content. So it's been mostly around these novels and the stories in which they're presenting. So a lot of that comes with, I guess, the age appropriate. To answer your question about that, a specific example would be what the State Board of Education has approved recently as their best standards book list. So within what the state board has approved for novels at each grade level, that gives us an opportunity to see what that entity feels is appropriate, and that's what we've been looking at. And so the ELA specialists have been comparing some of the content of those books, one of which is actually on the state board's list approved by the State Board of Education and is challenged here locally. So that's an interesting situation that board approved it, and now we're being, challenged that it violates those statutes. So.
And so out of these 145 books, then it takes a while because you have to read every single one of them.
Certainly, if the challenge is for the obscenity code, as Ms. Shattuck presented, we have to determine from the entirety of the entire work if it holds literary merit. So, a review of the entire book, not just one excerpt, is important to consider.
Well, may I? Mm-hmm. If you have sexually graphic material from cover to cover, and the entire thing is explicitly X-rated, we have movies that are rated X, R, PG-13, PG, and G. They're rated by age, and obviously those ratings are given because of the content of the material. So I can't even believe that I'm listening to what I'm listening to. Every time this comes up, I'm speechless that it just seems like there is a defending of these materials and how and why they should remain on the shelves because the DOE approved one, as if that couldn't have been a mistake.
Through the chair.
I mean, who knows?
I don't think you've read the entire book. I think that the excerpts that we're getting from Ms. Pippin are one-sentence excerpts. So you bring up movie ratings. Titanic is a PG-13 movie. It has nudity in it. That does not make it a pornographic movie. So these books, while they may actually have a sentence or a paragraph or something in it that's sexually explicit in nature, does not make it pornographic when taken as a whole.
Okay.
Right? There are plenty of movies, plenty of songs, plenty of everything that has content that is not a porn movie, a porn book, or porn that. So our specialists are looking at them entirely. I don't think that Ms. Pippin did. I don't think she read the entire book. She submitted 151 documents that said she read the entire book. I don't think that's true, but I know that we're going through everything.
Okay, First of all, this isn't about a particular person who submitted them.
It
Secondly,
absolutely is.
No, it isn't. I did not bring up any particular person. What I'm bringing up is our review process. And what Mrs. Barenborg mentioned or questioned was, are our media specialists reading and vetting those books from cover to cover? And if they are, that should take time. That was the initial question. And your answer to that is, no, they aren't. They're only taking a look at reviews and comparing them with things like,
No,
DOE website
no,
or
he
something
did
else.
not. He said they were reading them.
So my question is to just clarify, are they reading those books cover to cover? Not if Mrs. Pippin did it. Are we reading those books cover to cover? That's the question.
Through the chair, some of the books have been read cover to cover. Not all of them has been read cover to cover yet.
Because if we do read them cover to cover, then we can make an informed decision to say that those books in its entirety is not age appropriate or it is age appropriate. Because if we assume that Ms. Pippin did or did not do that, what she did or did not do is not up for question. A Form Appendix H was submitted with, following our policy, with the objection, and now it's up to us to properly vet that book. And so it doesn't really matter whether she did or didn't. Are we doing it? We need to make sure that we're doing that in order for us for a good recommendation to come forth.
That. He did tell me that they were trying to read through all the books.
Madam Chair, I will bring to a board a recommendation that has been thoroughly reviewed, is legally sound, so the board can take the appropriate action, whether it be a yes vote or a no vote. I understand how the board members feel regarding their beliefs around this particular situation. It is my responsibility to create a process that is sound, and that item will come before the board for the 5 board members to take their authority by placing a vote.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, with that, it's board member matters. We'll start down with Mr. Barefoot.
I have none.
You have none. Dr. Schiff.
If I had any, I've forgotten them. At this time, I don't have any.
Okay. Dr. Jones.
Yep. The MLK parade was great. Most of the board members were there, a lot of staff members on our trailer, and I know Ms. Barenborg and Dr. Schiff were at the park afterward, and it was a really good celebration. Thank you. Ms. Barenborg, I did get to the FLC for one of the vaping, holding the signs at parent pickup of the day, and I talked with our substance abuse, 3 of the ladies who were there, and thank you for that proclamation that you signed, and we really, really need to get on that in our elementary schools before they get to middle and high school.
Believe it or not, vaping is a problem in elementary school. Yes.
The MCAM meeting is on Wednesday. I implore all board members to join in. That was supposed to be here, but they're going to wait another month because of COVID and just concerns there. So again, the Moonshot Community Action Network with early learning resources is absolutely essential to the school district. So I thank them for their support. I think a lot of us were on the ESE Parent Advisory Zoom meeting. That was wonderful with Rachel Morey and her team, and also the Parent Engagement meeting, Mr. Seymour with Dr. Cowie and her team, and Mr. Seymour was on that the other night. So keeping involved with all that, I think, is very good. Special thank you to our guest speaker today, our discussion, Johnny Thornton. He is the Climate and Culture Task Force Chair. Thank you to Mr. Seymour for getting that going, listening to our community, especially in areas of advocacy and equity and access in your department, I think is crucial. So I thought it was a really good presentation, and hopefully some board members, we can get to some of those meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosario.
Thank you. I just wanted to apologize to everyone for kind of being MIA for the last month. I did have COVID from before New Year's, so it just seemed like, which it was, it felt like a month that I was testing positive. I literally just tested negative last week, so I did not attend the teacher Star Patrol or, Martin Luther King parade. Obviously, I wouldn't do that while I'm still sick or had symptoms or anything like that, so I do want to apologize to you all. I certainly wasn't going to make that, make all of the events, so thank you for letting you all know now. Thank you for for being forgiving and for understanding about that.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, just to update, like I mentioned this afternoon, the Treasure Coast Council Local Governments meeting was focused on vaping and the concerns on vaping. And just, again, I'm going to keep bringing it up because the public needs to know how concerned we should be about this, because kids are vaping and it's nicotine in their body, and one little vape is 20 cigarettes, and they're doing 300 puffs in that one little vape container, and that's worth 200 cigarettes, and they consume one a day, some kids. So that's like having 20 cigarettes a day. It's pretty scary. The other thing that's scary is how open and available it is now, because the ordinances have been lifted because of home rule. So I know that that's a concern going to Tallahassee. The ESE Advisory Committee meeting was great. Thank you to board members that participated. Transitioning students to their future is really, really important. And they had a follow-up meeting that I actually attended on Saturday morning. And that was interesting. It was done by the Project 10 Transition Education Network. And we have career camps here where we're putting our kids in little camps where they're working and they're going out in what I love that Indian River was able to talk about, and which is different than St. Lucie was also speaking about what they do there. But we find out what the child wants to do when they're older and graduating, and we try to fit them with that job instead of, you know, you'll make coffee or you'll bag groceries or you'll do this. So I think that's wonderful. I have a niece who's been bagging groceries for 35 years now, and she loves it. And she would, you know, every week loves to go bag her groceries. But I think that, I think it's great that we're reaching out, letting kids decide what they want to do in life and transitioning for that. And so more parents that need to be aware of that, of course, can contact Ms. Moray. Now, they mentioned a mock apartment. Are we making an apartment building or so, or apartment room in the high school?
In the
Yeah.
schools, yeah.
I can't wait to go see that on our walk. Okay.
Sebastian.
Okay. Okay, great. And then, of course, MLK Parade was wonderful, and I'm glad that they actually got to have it. I know it was on again, off again, on again, off again, and so it was nice that we were able to have it. And that's all I have. All right. So superintendent's closing?
Good evening, everyone.
Okay. Anyone object to me closing the meeting? No. Okay, it's 8:30. Everyone have a great evening.